Imagine your best friend buys you your absolute favorite coffee on a super stressful Tuesday, just purely to make you smile.
Right, a totally nice gesture.
Exactly. But what if I told you that a wildly popular internet philosophy actually suggests that your friend is, like, secretly plotting your downfall?
I mean, it sounds completely ridiculous when you frame it that way.
It really does.
But millions of people are walking around subscribing to the exact inverse of that logic. Like this whole idea that the person who brings you pain, misery, and trauma is actually some secret cosmic gift sent to fulfill you.
Yeah, you see it everywhere. I mean, if you spend literally any time scrolling through social media or looking at self-help content, you've inevitably encountered some variation of this quote.
Oh, absolutely.
Usually goes something like, anyone who brings pain to oneself is here to fulfill oneself, or, every person who hurts you is just a teacher sent to build you up.
And people really cling to that idea, like hard. There's this deep, almost psychological desperation to believe that every ounce of suffering is a curated lesson designed specifically for your personal evolution.
Right, because otherwise it's just random.
Exactly. It operates as a massive defense mechanism against the chaos of the world.
Well, today we are taking a sledgehammer to that defense mechanism. We're doing a deep dive into an essay written on March 3, 2024 by an author named Sui Feng.
And the title of this essay really does not mince words at all.
No, it doesn't. It's called Suffering and Hardship Do Not Elevate One's Life.
It's pretty clear where he stands.
Yeah. So our mission today is to look through the lens of this text and figure out if romanticizing our trauma actually makes us better people, or if it's just, a highly elaborate, comforting illusion.
But to do that properly, we can't just mock the internet quote and move on.
Right, that wouldn't be fair.
We have to actually look at the historical and philosophical bedrock that this modern pop psychology version mutated from. Because Whiffen actually acknowledges that there is a kernel of truth in the ancient understanding of suffering.
Yeah, the essay points to classical philosophy to show that suffering does actually have a functional role in the universe. Like, Zhuwei references a text called the Kaizen Tan.
Right, the Kaizen Tan.
And for anyone listening who hasn't encountered that, think of it as kind of a 16th century survival guide for the mind from the Ming Dynasty.
That's a great way to put it.
It's this collection of aphorisms, and it contains this very specific warning about how the universe operates.
Yeah, the warning essentially states that when heaven wants to harm someone, it first makes them proud with minor blessings.
Oh, wow.
But when heaven wants to bless someone, it first warns them with minor calamities. It's basically describing a cosmic balancing act.
It really frames the universe as playing like a long game of chess with the human ego. Because if your life is entirely devoid of friction and literally everything is going perfectly, you're likely developing a massive blind spot.
Right, you're getting arrogant.
Exactly, which sets you up for a catastrophic fall. A minor disaster, on the other hand, acts as a warning system, just snapping you awake before you walk off a cliff.
And the essay pairs that Ming Dynasty concept with the Tao Te Ching, pointing to the interconnected nature of misfortune and happiness.
Yeah, that one always lurks beneath the other.
Right. It's classical Tai Chi thinking, the yin and the yang. You literally cannot conceptualize enjoyment without the contrasting baseline of hardship.
Okay, let's unpack this with a physical framework. Because, think of a heavy workout at the gym.
Oh, yeah, good analogy.
You are intentionally lifting heavy weights to cause micro tears in your muscle fibers. You're inducing localized trauma to your body.
Right. And your nervous system definitely registers that as pain.
Yeah, you're sore for days. But the biological mechanism of repairing those tears is what forces the muscle to grow back stronger. The friction is a biological necessity for growth.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that physical friction translates directly to psychological friction.
Right.
Friction causes wear and tear, sure, but friction is also the only mechanism that allows us to walk across a floor without slipping. The ancient wisdom is fundamentally sound. Experiencing hardship has a necessary functional role in human existence.
So the author isn't saying suffering is 100% bad, right? He's acknowledging it has a function in the universe's balancing act.
Exactly, recognizing that universal ledger is a vital psychological tool. When you're enduring a terrible situation, understanding that pain is part of a vast balancing pendulum prevents total despair.
So if ancient wisdom universally agrees that friction and hardship are necessary, why is Whiffen so, actively hostile toward this modern internet quote?
Well, it comes down to a massive leap in logic. Acknowledging that pain exists as a functional part of the universe is completely different than claiming an individual who actively inflicts pain on you is doing it to fulfill your destiny.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because to expose that gap in logic, the author subjects the modern quote to a ruthless stress test.
And it's a brilliant test.
Hmm.
In formal logic, if you establish a definitive causal rule like a person bringing you pain is a person fulfilling you, you must examine the inverse of that rule to see if the underlying philosophy actually holds water.
Which brings us right back to the coffee cup scenario from the start of this deep dive.
Yep, the best friend.
If my best friend buys me a coffee and makes my day, according to this internet logic, are they secretly plotting my downfall?
They'd have to be. If we blindly accept that the agent of your pain is actually your great fulfiller, then the inverse has to be true. The person who brings you happiness, joy, freedom, and blessedness must actually be an agent of your destruction.
The moment you apply basic logical consistency to it, the whole framework just completely collapses.
The essay points this out beautifully. It essentially asks you, are the people who lead you into heaven actually pitting you against your own interests?
That is so wild to think about.
Right. If pain is the sole vehicle for self-actualization, then literally anyone offering you comfort is stunting your growth.
So the friend buying you coffee to ease your stress is supposedly harming your personal growth by giving you a moment of unearned joy. I mean, it takes it even further into the spiritual realm in the text.
Oh, it really does.
If pain is the only path to elevation, then God's, Buddha's, or literally whatever benevolent forces you believe in that bring peace and salvation are actively harming humanity.
We should be rejecting peace and demanding more divine smiting if we actually follow the internet quote to its literal conclusion.
It's just sheer absurdity.
It really highlights a massive cognitive dissonance in modern society. Someone bringing you joy is not trying to ruin your potential.
No, of course not.
But we are so terrified of acknowledging that we're vulnerable to random, meaningless cruelty that we perform these incredible mental gymnastics. We desperately rebrand our abusers as our gurus just to feel some sense of control over the trauma.
Wow. Rebranding abusers as gurus.
Yeah.
That totally exposes the psychological trap we fall into. But, logic puzzles about inverse rules are still somewhat abstract.
True.
Shuffing doesn't stop at philosophical hypotheticals. The essay drags this internet philosophy out of the realm of self-help blogs and forces it into the darkest, most visceral realities of human existence.
Right, because a philosophy cannot claim to be a universal truth if it only applies to minor inconveniences, like a bad breakup or, a tough day at the office.
Yeah, it has to hold up at the absolute extremes of human suffering.
And this is where the essay gets intense. The text asks you to picture a villain violently attacking your family.
Right.
If someone stabs your parents or your children, bringing you unimaginable, earth-shattering grief, can you honestly stand there and say the perpetrator was sent to fulfill you?
No one would say that. It's horrific.
And the author expands that out to a systemic level, too. Think of oppressive, exploitative rulers.
Okay.
If a tyrant suppresses your freedoms, steals your labor, and engineers a society where you are suffering every single day just to survive, is that system fulfilling you?
The essay meticulously lists these toxic elements of the world: untrustworthy people, thieves, robbers, bullies, cruel officials, counterfeit goods, drugs.
Yeah, it's a long list of misery.
If we believe the internet quote, we have to look at the most destructive forces in society and literally thank them for our fulfillment.
And to understand why that is so completely broken, we have to look at how Feng actually defines the word fulfillment.
Right, and the definition provided in the text is incredibly grounding. It defines fulfillment quite simply as to realize one's wishes.
To realize one's wishes. Let's apply that. Ask yourself, does being driven from your home realize your wishes?
Obviously not.
Does losing your property and being left destitute realize your wishes? Does being deceived into a hellish, abusive situation realize your wishes? Unless your wishes are entirely self-destructive, the answer is a resounding no.
Exactly.
The environment created by trauma is inherently hostile to the realization of wishes.
Okay, but wait, I have to push back slightly here. On behalf of anyone listening who has gone through severe trauma and managed to rebuild a beautiful life.
Sure, go ahead.
People always say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. There is a reason that phrase exists. People do adapt. Isn't the author ignoring human resilience here? I mean, doesn't overcoming that severe darkness elevate a person's character?
What's fascinating here is that we have to distinguish between survival adaptation and actual fulfillment.
Okay, how so?
Human resilience is undeniably powerful, but adapting to trauma to stay alive is not the same thing as having your life elevated. Look at the historical argument Schreffing makes.
Right, the essay talks about history.
Yeah. For the vast majority of human existence, through the Dark Ages, through wars, famines, and plagues, daily life was defined by intense suffering.
The historical baseline for humanity is basically just trauma.
Exactly, and the essay asks a brutal question. Did all that suffering fulfill the masses? Did the relentless hardship of the Dark Ages produce a population of fully self-actualized, enlightened individuals?
Well, no. It did the exact opposite. It snuffed out millions of people, literally and figuratively.
Generational trauma didn't unlock their potential. It kept them trapped in a cycle of pure survival.
Right, they were just trying to make it to the next day.
When you look at history, you do not see a utopia built on the back of trauma. You see endless generations of lost potential. Acknowledging someone's resilience after a tragedy is important, but demanding that the tragedy was the reason for their greatness is incredibly toxic.
It robs them of their own internal agency.
Yes. A person who survives abuse becomes great despite the trauma, not because of it. Assigning a greater purpose to senseless cruelty only serves to validate the cruelty.
So what does this all mean? If suffering fundamentally fails to create fulfilled, enlightened people, what does it actually create? If we're throwing out the idea that pain brings elevation, we need to understand the true psychological byproducts of pain.
The essay offers a really stark reality check on human psychology here. It points out that enduring pain and hardship does not magically make people grateful or serene.
Right.
The immediate psychological byproduct of pain is anger, and it makes people highly irrational.
We can all relate to that on a micro level, honestly. When you are in severe physical pain or you're experiencing a massive emotional betrayal, your nervous system flips into fight or flight mode.
Exactly.
You aren't radiating peace and empathy. Your brain is aggressively hoarding all of its resources just to protect you. You become irritable, defensive, and completely focused on neutralizing the threat.
That fight or flight state consumes literally all of your emotional bandwidth. Now, the text does concede a very specific limitation to the quote-unquote benefits of this state.
What's that?
It uses the phrase, eat a fall, grow in wit.
Okay, I like that. Eat a fall, grow in wit.
Right. Suffering can absolutely teach you a lesson in street smarts. It teaches you how to identify danger and how to protect yourself in the future.
It's the difference between learning not to touch a hot stove because you got severely burned versus learning to cook a gourmet meal because you have a safe, well-equipped kitchen.
That is a perfect way to look at it.
Because touching the hot stove leaves you with a third-degree burn. The lesson you walk away with is purely defensive. Do not touch the glowing red coils.
Right. The trauma instills an avoidance mechanism.
The pain makes you cautious. It might even make you, hyper-vigilant every time you walk into a kitchen. But getting burned absolutely does not make you a master chef.
Not at all.
It doesn't teach you how to properly balance the acidity in a sauce or bake a perfect loaf of bread. The pain only taught you how to avoid further damage. The safe kitchen is what actually allows you to experiment, learn, and elevate your skills.
That hot stove analogy maps perfectly onto our moral and spiritual development. Hardship makes a person shrewd, but it absolutely does not make a person more charitable, compassionate, or generous.
Right.
In fact, prolonged hardship engineers a severe scarcity mindset. If your brain believes you are constantly fighting for survival, it becomes neurologically incredibly difficult to be generous with your time, your resources, or your empathy. Empathy requires a surplus of emotional safety.
Wow. So if the burn only teaches caution, what actually teaches us how to be the master chef? I mean, how does human life actually elevate, if not through the struggle?
Xue points to the profound environmental reality of joy and stability. The text argues that it is civilized, orderly, happy, and free environments that allow people to become what the author calls celestial beings, or Buddhas.
Celestial beings or Buddhas.
Yeah. It is only within a foundation of safety that people can achieve their best wishes.
That completely flips the script on the rugged individualist mindset we've all been sold.
Totally.
We have this deep-seated belief that you have to be forged in fire to have any structural integrity. But the essay is telling us that fire just burns things down to ash. It's joy, safety, and freedom that act as the actual catalysts for human growth.
To understand the mechanics of this, compare a botanical garden to a barren desert.
Okay, let's hear it.
Plants that grow in a harsh, water-starved desert survive by developing thick, impenetrable bark and really aggressive thorns.
Right, like a cactus.
Exactly. They hoard every drop of water. Those are trauma adaptations. But plants in a nutrient-rich, safe botanical garden don't need thorns. They use their energy to bloom and yield fruit. The environment dictates the adaptation.
And the essay applies that same environmental rule to human societies. It warns that barbaric, backward places, environments saturated with lies, deceit, deprivation, and cruelty, do not breed stoic philosophers.
No, they don't.
According to the text, those environments breed demons and monsters.
Because if you live in a society built entirely on deceit and exploitation, honesty becomes a fatal liability. You have to learn to deceive just to survive the day. You are not being spiritually elevated. You are being dragged down into the med just to keep breathing.
It is a massive validation of happiness. We constantly treat happiness as a frivolous byproduct of a good life, almost like a luxury item you get to enjoy only after you've suffered enough.
Yes, exactly.
But Shuifeng frames happiness and safety as the foundational requirements for actualization. You simply cannot realize your wishes if you are perpetually dodging incoming fire.
Reading this essay provides a profound sense of relief, honestly. It acts as a philosophical permission slip, freeing you from the burden of toxic gratitude.
Yes, you do not owe your abusers a thank you note. You do not have to view the person who betrayed you or the system that exploited you as some cosmic architect of your personal destiny.
They just harmed you. Full stop.
Exactly. The growth, the resilience, and the life you build afterward belongs entirely to you and to the supportive people and safe environments that actually helped you heal.
You do not need to be broken to be built up. Pain might teach you where the sharp edges of the world are hidden, but it is happiness, freedom, and genuine joy that actually fulfill your life and elevate who you are.
Which leaves us with a highly provocative question to consider as we wrap up today.
Oh, definitely.
If we accept Xu premise that safe, happy, and civilized environments are the true breeding grounds for compassion and actualized human beings, how should that fundamentally alter the way we structure our modern world?
It's a huge question. Just look at the environments we passively accept as normal right now.
Yeah.
We have cutthroat, high-stress corporate workplaces that demand 80-hour weeks. We have pressure cooker educational systems where students are chronically anxious and sleep-deprived.
Don't forget the outrage-driven media landscape.
Right. A media landscape engineered to keep our nervous systems in a constant state of threat and anger.
And we justify all of those stressful environments by claiming we are building resilience or developing grit in people.
But are we? Under the misguided guise of building character through hardship, are we accidentally designing the exact barbaric environments the essay warns about?
Wow.
Are our modern institutions actually breeding the demons and monsters of chronic anxiety, burnout, and cruelty, all while convincing us it is for our own ultimate fulfillment?
That is something to seriously scrutinize the next time someone tells you the crushing pressure of a situation is just making you a diamond.
Truly.
It brings us back to the reality of the human body.
Yeah.
Yes, if a bone breaks, biology will desperately try to knit it back together, but you don't need to go around purposefully snapping your own arm or thanking the person who broke it just to prove your body knows how to heal.
You are fully allowed to simply walk through life with your bones intact.
That is the perfect place to leave it. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it brought you some clarity and lifted a bit of that toxic burden off your shoulders. I encourage you to go out and aggressively seek the joy, the safety, and the happiness that actually fulfills you. You do not need the pain to prove your worth. Take care of yourselves, and we'll catch you on the next one.